Hey everyone, we're playing Kerbal Space Program Career Mode again. This is Mission 3 following Mission 2B. Um, with all the new parts we bought, we have a few exciting things to look forward to. First and foremost, I've got some radial decouplers now, which allows us to do nonlinear staging, which is especially useful for getting heavier things out into space, up into orbit or elsewhere. We also picked up some landing struts and radial mount parachutes. And with those bare minimum of parts, I think for this next mission we are going to shoot for the moon, both literally and figuratively, or Minmus to be more correct, as that is an easier moon to get to and back from with the parts we have. Now, we do not have solar panels, so much like last time, we are going to be relying on the recovery of the vehicle to get most of the science from this mission. So we're going to keep this lander section small and light, so that we can recover it. We do have the advantage of having more parachutes this time, which means we shouldn't be working so hard to land as we did last time. We still probably want to keep it to a bare minimum of parts here, though. We're going to need some landing struts for the actual mission, the parachutes. Of course, we're going to want our goo containment units, just 2 this time. Again, last time we learned there were some severe diminishing returns, but we do still want to maintain balance because we did not get much by way of aerodynamics or control to keep this thing stable in flight. So I think this is pretty much going to make up the bulk of our Minmus lander. We, of course, want to get the rocket to a separate stage so that it's firing when it needs to. That should get us going. But this will not make it to orbit on its own, so we're going to need to build a much bigger rocket beneath it. So we'll go ahead and put a stack decoupler in place. We didn't get any bigger fuel tanks, so we're just going to have to use a lot of these T400 fuel tanks. I think 4 of them probably ought to be the maximum we can handle with this T30 liquid fuel engine. Yeah, that puts us at about 1.4, a little bit lower than I like to be, but good enough, I suppose, for launch. This probably will not get us to orbit, however. That's why we need these radial decouplers, so that we can get a little more thrust and power out of the whole thing. And again, because we don't have much by way of aerodynamics, we're relying on balance to keep this thing going straight. So we're going to go ahead and do a full 4 fuel tanks on the outside of this thing to keep it stable. And it's kind of tough to build these this way, but we'll do, say, 3 up and 1 down. I want the couplers kind of low to keep the engines from flexing too far out. We don't have any struts or anything to stabilize this on the way up, so we got to try and keep things relatively tight down here at the bottom. Otherwise, our engines are going to bend themselves out during launch, and we may actually wind up having the rocket tear itself apart rather than going to space today. Looks like I might be slightly off rotation here. Let's go ahead and check that. We'll grab this decoupler here, and yeah. Alright, that looks good. Okay. Well, even if that is off rotation, it's close enough. We'll put some finishing touches on here. Some aerodynamic nose cones. Some winglets for the bottom here. I think 4 ought to do it for that. Yeah. Make sure those are coming off where we want them to. You know, that is not lined up at all. That is where we want those. And, oh, there's our problem. Our fuel tanks are actually not all the way on. Alright. Well, that's easy enough to fix. Alright, so we've got our fuel tanks, we've got our engines, we've got some winglets. Let's just go ahead and put some more on here for good measure, just to make sure they don't weigh much, and we do need all the help we can get to keep going straight. With that, I think that should pretty much make up the rocket. You know, while I'm at it, why don't I go ahead and add on some parachutes to these, just because I think it would be amusing to recover these components, I probably won't be able to recover this middle section. This is likely going to get stuck in some sort of an eccentric orbit, depending on how long the fuel lasts on my way up. But we should definitely be able to save these outer booster tanks, which we're going to get into the habit of now, because I think ultimately I'd like to push this towards more of a reusable space program design like Scott Manley has. But I think that should do it for the Minmus goer. It doesn't really sound very good. Let's say, how about the Minmus maybe? Yeah. The Minmus maybe. One. Because we might have to do this more than once. We do need to mess with the staging here. The way this works, we are going to have the 4 external rockets pushing us up most of the way. We will decouple there and set off the middle engine for the next stage of the flight. At that point, we will decouple and set off the last engine so that we can eventually get to Minmus. And I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here, just because the actual Minmus video is going to be pretty long. And hopefully get the Minmus video posted next after I've had some time to edit. Anyway, hope it all goes well. Thanks for watching.